In our explainer of this source material, we landed on one foundational idea. AI predicts patterns. It doesn't actually think. Let's open the engine just enough to understand the most important quirk you'll deal with every single day. We need to look at why these tools can be so fluent, so incredibly confident, and so completely wrong all at once. Start with how a large language model is actually built. It's trained by reading an enormous amount of text, books, articles, code, large parts of the public web. As it reads, it's playing one simple game over and over again. Cover the next word, try to predict it, check the answer, adjust. Do that billions of times across billions of examples, and the model gets extraordinarily good at one thing, guessing what comes next, in a way that sounds entirely natural and informed. Notice what it's learning here. It's not learning facts, filed away for lookup later. It's learning patterns, the shape of how language tends to go. After training, there's a second step where humans give it feedback. We rate answers, show it how to follow instructions, and teach it to be helpful and stay within safety rules. That is what turns a raw pattern predictor into the polished assistant you actually talk to. But underneath all that polish, the core behavior never changed. When you ask a question, the model isn't consulting a memory bank of verified true things. It's simply generating the most plausible continuation of your prompt, word by word, based entirely on the patterns it absorbed. Now, most of the time, the most plausible sounding text is also true, and that's because the text it learned from was mostly true. That's why it works as well as it does. But here is where we have to be careful. The real trouble is what happens when the most plausible sounding answer and the true answer come apart. This is where hallucination comes in, and it's the single most important concept in this whole explainer, so let's be really precise about it. A hallucination is simply when the model produces something fluent, confident, and wrong. Like the real-world lawyers who submitted AI-generated legal briefs only to discover the AI had completely fabricated the court cases it confidently cited. It can be a statistic that sounds exactly right but is totally invented, a quote no one ever actually said, a date that's off by a decade. Here's the part that surprises people the most. When you're confronted with these confident fabrications, it's incredibly natural to ask, is this a system bug? Is the AI somehow breaking down? A hallucination is not a bug. It's not the system breaking. It is the system doing exactly what it always does, predicting plausible text, in a case where plausible and true just happen to diverge. Once you see that, the whole thing makes a lot more sense. You see, the model has no separate sense of I know this versus I'm guessing. It generates both facts and fabrications in the exact same smooth, assured voice. It literally cannot feel uncertain because there is no one inside to feel it. That is exactly why you can't read confidence as correctness. With a person, a confident tone usually means they're sure, and it often means they're right. With these tools, that link is completely broken. The fluent paragraph and the fabricated statistic are produced by the exact same process, with the exact same polish. Tone tells you absolutely nothing about truth. Because the AI is simply predicting text without actually knowing the underlying truth, this broken link between tone and accuracy shows up in highly predictable places. You'll see it in numbers and statistics, invented figures that look incredibly authoritative, in citations and sources, plausible-looking references that lead absolutely nowhere, in names, dates, and quotes, which are small specifics that are remarkably easy to get subtly wrong, and in anything recent, because the model's knowledge was frozen when it was trained. So for anything that happened after that, it's simply filling the gap with a highly educated guess. Now, this might sound like a reason to distrust AI entirely. It isn't. It's just a reason to use it with your eyes open. Once you understand that the machine is generating plausible text rather than retrieving verified truth, you stop being surprised by the mistakes. And you start doing the one thing that turns this from a liability into a tool you can genuinely rely on. You verify the things that matter. That single shift, treating AI's output as a confident first draft to be checked, never as a final answer to be trusted, is the foundation everything else in this explainer is built on. It's why we spend real time on prompting, which reduces the errors, and on verification, which catches the ones that slip through. So the mechanism, in one breath, it learned patterns, not facts. It predicts what sounds right, not what is right, and it says both in the exact same confident voice. Understand that, and you're already way ahead of most people using these tools, including many who've been using them for years. So we've stepped out of the engine and into your actual workday. You now know the machine isn't thinking, it's predicting. The question is, now that you know its confidence is just an illusion, how will you change the way you verify its work tomorrow?